I think AI can help you become more human and more creative. I've created things that will check when my YouTube video is out and spit things out. And then I've created things like something that can split transcripts up. If my guest isn't looking at the screen, if they're looking down all the time, I can actually make it look like they're looking at the screen using AI. For somebody like me who doesn't always have the best memory, it can be like your second brain. So I store all my information of all the gear that I have, all the podcasts I've been on, and I store that in
Creator Magic Podcast.
Just before we get into the episode, would you do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button? Wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, subscribing really helps the show to grow. And now, let's get into the episode.
Hi Mike, how you doing?
I'm really good. You're using GPTs a lot in the processes you're working on. Tell me about your GPTs. What are you most proud of and how are they helping you?
Yeah, so I use ChatGPT probably the most. I've got the Plus subscription, so I've been addicted to ChatGPT 4. And then I've created things like something that can split transcripts up. So I give it an SRT file and it can split it all up into those different ones. I've created things that will check when my latest YouTube video is out and spit things out. So it's just been amazing to create all these different things. The other thing that I did was create. So this is a little bit geeky, but I do a lot of on my blog. I talk a lot about live video streaming tools and comparing them. So I thought it'd be great if I could store all that information about all the different tools on a Google Sheet, and then I can get a script to fetch those and put them on the screen. And the same with gear. And it would go to Amazon, get the latest prices, put them on the screen. Now, I wouldn't have a clue with any of this stuff before, but with ChatGPT, I said, this is what I want to do. Tell me how I can do it, and let's do it together. And I've gone down all these rabbit holes, creating all these cool things.
I love that. I think that's a great use of GPTs. I often sit there in front of ChatGPT and I use the vanilla experience and I just prompt the ChatGPT interface to do what I want to do. But you're right, customizing different GPTs can allow you to code better if coding is a hobby of yours.
I think ChatGPT and other GPTs can help with the organization of code and with comments. So I've always been a really bad commenter, and I go back to the code later on. I thought, what on earth was that about? But you can go into ChatGPT, feed in the code. What does this do? And it will explain what it does. It's a nice, helpful teacher.
It never gets tired. It never gets bored. And like you say, if you know a little bit about coding, it can make you a really excellent coder. And I've noticed that the ability of AI to augment our skills as content creators. So for instance, I traditionally have always been a terrible graphic designer. I like working with audio. I'm okay with video. Graphic design is definitely my weakness. And recently I've been getting comments on my thumbnail saying, these are really cool. I'm like, yeah, it's me and I'm using AI. So have you found that AI has taken a skill that you were pretty rubbish at, but you wanted to do? You've always had the passion and made it better. How has it done that for you?
Well, yeah, logos. So some people are getting frightened, like graphic designers saying, AI is going to take away our jobs. I don't think it does, and I'll explain why. Because, like, I've just launched another podcast, and I wanted to come up with some ideas. I hadn't really got a clue what it was, so I plugged that into ChatGPT. I said, can you come up with some ideas for a logo for this podcast? And it came up with some ideas and then actually outputted some images. And the first one it came out with was amazing. It was almost perfect, but it wasn't quite. So I could then send that over to a designer. I went to Fiverr and somebody converted it, put some headphones on. It was like a picture of a brain, put some headphones on. And so it's a great way of actually, for somebody like me who knows kind of vaguely what they want, but they can't kind of put it into words. And ChatGPT can help with that. You could use Midjourney or Adobe Firefly for the actual design part, use an AI like that. But that's been amazing. So things like that where I'm not a designer, absolutely no way. And it's the same also with copywriting. I use it for brainstorming, gathering thoughts, finding information. So I store all my information of all the gear that I have, all the podcasts I've been on. I store that in Notion, and Notion's got an AI now. So I can say, well, I think I was on a podcast last year talking about cheese. I mean, okay, I'm making that up. But and then Notion comes back, here are the podcasts that you are on. It's amazing. So for somebody like me who doesn't always have the best memory, it can be like your second brain.
That's brilliant. I love that. And I love the fact I was actually going to ask you, you've got these GPTs, you've got these repositories of knowledge, you've got your website. Where are you organizing? Where are you ordering this stuff? And Notion is a great tool. I love it. I'm still learning it. But for me, it feels a bit like the IKEA effect, because yes, you can use someone else's template and build something, but you kind of take the most passion, I feel, from creating your own Notion template and storing all your thoughts and bits like that. So you mentioned Adobe Firefly, and they seem to be releasing new features every week at the moment. What have you found the most interesting about Adobe Firefly?
Yeah, Adobe Firefly, when it first came out, it wasn't so good, but they've really improved it, and they've just released a new version. And I love the fact that it's baked into products like Adobe Express and Photoshop. So, for example, I had a photo done of me, a headshot, but I thought, let's just bring it into Photoshop and then let's expand the image a little bit more. So there's generative fill where you can expand it further. And I've also been creating slides for a talk I'm giving in a few weeks. And so the image that I got generated by AI wasn't big enough, and I wanted to make it larger and more interesting. So put it into Photoshop, and you can expand these images. You can describe what you want over in the right-hand corner. And the other thing that I really like about what Adobe are doing is that they're really thinking about the ethical aspects of this, because all of their Adobe Firefly has been trained on their stock library. And so you know that the images that you're getting are safe. They've not been the model's not been trained on copyrighted material. So I think that's good. I think they're doing the right thing there. With other models, you just don't know whether somebody might contact you later and say, "Oh, well, that looked a little bit like my image. Hands off, please." So I think that's good.
How do you feel about the fact that you can type in a text prompt and have a 30-second audio clip that sounds like Armin van Buuren or, Cheryl Cole or someone else who's amazingly talented? Do you feel that the creator has made that music, or do you think they're just a great prompt engineer?
Yeah, the jury is out on that one, I think. I definitely use tools that help with voice. So one of my favorite tools that is absolutely central to a lot of my content creation is Descript, or Descript, however you pronounce it. And in that, for example, if I had a guest on and they kind of stumbled over the words and we couldn't quite hear the word, I can I can't remember what it's called now, but regenerate what they said, so it's more audible. And I think also you can do things like, for example, if my guest isn't looking at the screen, if they're looking down all the time, I can actually get them to make it look like they're looking at the screen using AI. I think with all of these tools, I always think just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you need to be really careful. You need to speak to your guest about that. You stumbled over your words. Is it okay if I just change that slightly?
Are you using it in any other ways? I know it's got the ability to generate shorts and things like that, or even film videos. What other use cases have you got?
Where I start is Ecamm Live or Riverside. I use those tools because they have separate tracks. I can then drop them in. I can switch cameras. There's a active speaker setting, so you can then just get it to automatically switch between them. You can have multiple camera angles in there. The AI feature that I love is creating show notes. At the moment, when my testing, it's not the best. So what I then do is I copy that and then plug that into ChatGPT. I have a custom GPT that I created, which has my template, and I plug in. I say, "Here's my Descript template. Here's the SRT file. Give me some show notes." And actually, I don't need to do the SRT file because I start with Descript, and it gives me some amazing stuff. And you can do shorts in there. I've actually started to use Opus clips a little bit more because it's kind of quick and dirty. It does the job, and they're more impactful. I think Descript has some work to do there, but you can absolutely do that, and you've got templates, so it's so easy to do. So I just love the way that I can record either live or as if I were live, plug it all into Descript, and then at the end of it, I've got shorts, I've got a podcast, I've got a YouTube. I've got social media images and text and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like Descript. Like you say, maybe it can generate you shorts, but it's not so good at picking the points, whereas Opus Clip, on the other hand, will actually pick out the points in your recording and say, hey, these are amazing bits of your recording. Let's make them into a short, and it'll do the mixing with the captions and even B-roll now, I think, as well. So that's a really cool thing. I've also seen you mentioned earlier on, Adobe Firefly, which is their great image generation model. And then you briefly touched on Adobe Express. I know you're using that quite a bit. I believe you're ambassador for Adobe Express, and you talk about it on your YouTube channel. And a video you did a little while back now really caught my attention, where you're actually taking a video and removing the background from that video and making something really creative. I think that's a really creative use case for Adobe Express. So tell us a little bit more, to end this show, how you're using Adobe Express and particularly that remove background of video. I didn't even realize you can import video and edit it in Adobe Express. So how are you using that?
Background removal from videos is crazy. And I had fun just removing the background from a video and then superimposing that on a TV, a picture of a TV, and you can get yourself to pop out of the TV. I need to play around with that more because there's so much creativity. It's almost overwhelming how much you can do with that. But yeah, I love Adobe Express from that point of view. And you've got all the fonts from Adobe. Fonts sound boring, but actually it makes such a difference in the design. I'm sounding like a right designer now, aren't I? Do you think AI is going to make me into a designer? We'll see.
It's going to do everything for you. And I think what I love about you, Ian, and the content you produce is you're always on top of things. I think you've always said that you've been known as the tools guy even before AI came about. So you were helping people with their social media presence and their live streaming presence. And now you've picked up AI and run with it beautifully. So I love the fact that you're on top of things. Like, I love to see that the moment a feature is released, like Ian Anderson Gray has something, in the early days of HeyGen, where you could lip sync in a different language, you were playing with it like the day it was released. And I was like, that is so cool.
There was a speech that somebody was giving, I can't remember what language, maybe Spanish, and they just got the video of him speaking into English, and it made it so much more accessible. It's amazing what AI can do. Obviously there were ethical considerations, but I'm so excited by all of this. I really am.
And let's just finish on large language models. Obviously, you're using a lot of ChatGPT. I know that. You've got a ChatGPT Pro account, but you've also expressed to me offline that Claude and the big Opus model is an interest of yours. And you said that you watched one of my recent videos about setting up LibreChat so you can have multiple language models in one interface and chat to your favorite model.
And this is one of the big problems, I think, with ChatGPT at the moment. ChatGPT 4 is really good, but it has very limited number of tokens, and it's going to forget things very, very quickly. And so Claude can cope with a lot more data, and that really excites me. But it's expensive, the Opus model. So we were talking about the fact that, well, why not start off with the cheaper model, give it the transcript, then it can come out with some kind of show notes, and then switch over to Opus to refine that. Or I think you mentioned starting off with Opus, actually asking it to come up with a really good prompt that's going to help you, then flip over and then flip. I think that's going to be really exciting to play with. One thing that I really want to understand is which model is better for each kind of thing that you want to do, and also just be aware of how expensive they are. It's going to be really interesting to see what Gemini is going to do with Google Gemini. I'm really looking forward to it being able to look at the data that I've already got. Obviously, there are privacy implications here, but I'm always losing my emails. Like, somebody contacted me recently. It'd be amazing if we had an AI tool that would connect to everywhere where I am, Facebook, Google, Gmail, all that kind of stuff, and find the data that I'm looking for. That's also very scary as well. It's like a Black Mirror episode, I think. Potentially.
And on that beautiful note, let's turn it around to end. Give one piece of positive advice to a content creator who's just found you, Ian, and watched or listened to this show. How can they use AI to really make the future bright? How can they get started? What would you say?
Don't get overwhelmed. Like, I don't think your listeners are going to be these kind of people who are scared. I think they're probably wanting to embrace it. But I think we can, even if you are in that state, we can still get overwhelmed. We can still get frightened about these things. Just play around with it. Just make mistakes, play with it. Just start to use AI. I think AI can help you become more human and more creative. It's not going to replace those things. I don't think it ever will. But just have fun. It's like it's like being back at school in the playground and coming up with some fun things.
Ian Anderson-Gray has been my guest. Ian, if people are interested, where's the best place for them to find you online?
Well, you can follow me on all the socials. Just search for my name, Ian Anderson-Gray, and my website is iag.me.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Creator Magic Podcast. Would you like to get a weekly email with all the latest AI tools I find? If so, head over to mrc.fm/Creator Magic and hit subscribe to get my weekly email newsletter. That's mrc.fm/Creator Magic.